The stream for the 25th of September ended early for who knows what reason. I didn't switch over to Starlink. I didn't lose connection. The system reset and I put everything back and then I looked over at YouTube and I was offline. I don't know if Facebook or Twitch or any of the others worked. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to splice the two videos together. The one that actually made it to the live stream and then what was recorded while I thought I was online and I wasn't until I realized I wasn't, and then I just kept going with it. So since that was a successful recording, I'll just smush them together and then they'll follow here as one stream. So it may look a little weird after YouTube ended it because I'm just going to like approximate how everything was lined up, and then it'll end like normal, but it's going to be a recorded video instead of a stream, and so the comments will stop partway through, and that's just it is what it is. So we'll catch you in this live stream recorded, and then we'll catch you on the flip side. Good afternoon, good evening, and good day. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. Ugh, got yellow lights behind me. Let me fix that real quick. Da, da, da. Let's also go off grid while we're at it, because that's going to change the color of the lights again as well. Ha! There we go. Run on solar here. All right, let's see. Thankfully the stunner's on because now the fans are going. Let's get these lights. It's disgusting yellow. Wow. I don't know why it reset. Oh, everything is yellow. Ugh. I like cooler temperatures on my lights, and for some reason these IKEA lights they reset themselves to yellow whenever they lose power and randomly. I don't want to change the brightness. There we go. Okay, so we've got quite a bit today. We've got a bunch that was submitted to us by the co-hosts, and then a little bit more that I found on my own. And let's jump into it. But first, let's do an audio check to make sure that I can hear me and that you guys can hear me. Okay, I can hear me. And let's see, let's pull up the chat. All right, Robert says hello. Good morning, Robert, or good evening, Robert. Worldwide. All right. And Anders also says good evening. Good to see you. All right, let's see what's up first. Oh, screen is flickering. I've got a particular color gray on the screen that this particular monitor doesn't care for. And if you've got it on a higher refresh rate or in HDR mode and that color comes on, I think it's more than like 5 pixels, it'll just either flicker like it's doing right now, or it'll just change colors. Kind of like on your phones and other devices, if you've got like a day-night mode, it's that drastic of a change that like when it first comes on. All right, let's see. And Keith Wiggins says, "What's up?" Good to see you. All right, so I moved the window with the news that they brought to me. Let's start before we get into what the co-host brought up. Let's bring up one that we did on Drive. Yes, it's from Drive Tesla Canada, but we did on the Tesla Live show this week, and we'll go from there. Where's my share button? Move my cheese. And this one. All right, so we had discussed what appeared to be more shenanery at Berlin, and allegedly that there was an expansion vote to be held at a local meeting where Tesla's discussion was removed from the agenda. Then later on, we get a new report directly from. I still don't have the switch sharing button. There was another update in the browser this morning, and I always get hopeful. Paste and go. But the mayor says otherwise. He says that that everything's on track and that Giga Berlin's expansion plans are not on hold and that they were not removed from the roster of discussion for the meeting. And let's see, where did he say that? Tesla put everything reported in the American newspaper or put everything in the American newspaper in perspective. The plant is still being built, he says, or she. They also denied a previous report from RBB24 that claimed that he had removed an item from the local council agenda to discuss and decide on Giga Berlin's expansion plans. He says the topic was never put there to begin with, and the plans are still being discussed with local community representatives. So the only thing that seems to have been untrue about the report is that it was on there and removed, but they said it was indeterminate. We were still figuring out what's going on in the future, blah, blah, blah. So I bet it's somewhere in the middle of this spectrum, because ever since they decided to put this plant here, it's had its fair number of regulatory setbacks. So that was just that. Just a little quick update, and let's move on to some of the items that were submitted by the co-hosts. So this one was fun. I found a tweet, and then I found an article, and then Dan found an article with better pictures. So, thank you, Dan. This is Rivian showing off custom fleet of electric mobile service vans and R1T pickups in a video walkthrough. So everyone knows that the Tesla will come to you and service your vehicle, and so does Rivian. In fact, they call it the same thing. They've got mobile service techs. And so this is a Rivian Service R1T. My favorites are the Rivian Service vans. What's up, Breakneck Trent? Good to see you. So let's look at these. Again, I picked this one because it got better pictures than the ones I found, and then I started with a tweet. If you could see my process, it would you wouldn't like it. It's all over the place. And let's see. So they're summarizing what happened. 40 service centers in the U.S. and Canada. But just like Tesla, if you want to start a brand new company, it's kind of in the premium market, luxury market. You need to be able to come to where the customer is, because time is money. So this one is a photo. I think it's pretty cool. It reminds me of the Model S's and X's that Tesla uses for service. They've got their tool chests and their slide-out drawers, and that was pretty cool. And let's see, there's another picture here. And then, of course, with the R1T, you've got a automatic sliding tonneau cover built into the vehicle. And over here, you can see they've got the jack stands to lift the vehicle up to do stuff like tire changes or suspension work, etc. All right, so then we've got this video that was put up by RJ Sarange, the CEO of the company. Our mobile service fleet is expanding. Our Service R1T and Rivian service vans are specifically equipped to handle most service needs and designed to reach our customers wherever they are. Let's take a look at this video.
I'm going to and wanted to show our mobile service truck and mobile service van. And essentially, what's going on inside of our service center, all of that is being put into a van or into a...
So I want to point out real quick, this van right here is the same van that they're selling to Rivian. So I'm wondering if these are the ones that were being used for like shakedown tests or prototypes, or if for some reason they didn't pass inspection to be used for Amazon vans, or hey, they're the manufacturer. Maybe they just said, hey, we're going to build an extra 3 today, and these are going into service. Or these would also be the same ones that that they would use when they go to service the Rivian vans for Amazon, assuming that they come across something that Amazon isn't set up to service in their own facilities. Let's continue.
Truck. And I'm joined here with Phil, who's going to walk us through this vehicle, and Phil's team led really the development of the service van program.
So we worked really closely with the technicians in the field to figure out what they need. So we put the most commonly used tools up front so they're easy and quick to access. And then as we come inside, we've got all of the rest of the tools that we need to take service to the customer. Even the wheel and tire equipment here for replacing tires in the field.
There are very few of these set up for Tesla to do the wheel and tires. Sometimes they'll contract with another local company. Most of the time, they'll tell you either go to your local tire shop or come to us. Um, so this is really cool to see that Rivian is making sure that their vans are equipped with the mobile tire servicing equipment from the get-go.
In the back here, we've got a crane that we're able to
Oh,
lift heavy equipment in and out of the vehicle, including that tire machine that's up in the front there. So we can easily reconfigure
oh
the
wow.
vehicle as is needed for the changes in service. We also did some work on ergonomics. So we have this little swing out stand here for the jack, and then some underfloor storage here for some other heavy items that we need commonly
Ah,
on a regular basis.
Great. And here we have
that's pretty cool that they have the crane not just for getting stuff into and out of the van, but also they could probably you know do something with the vehicle itself if they needed to, and that's pretty thoughtful, especially because, like you said, putting the tire machine in and out, you might not be on any tire servicing requests that week, so you could take the machine out and put in what you do need. It's pretty thoughtful. And Breakneck Trent says, "Do they put a toilet in the Amazon vans?" I don't think they did, but they should have a cassette toilet in there. That way, while they're working that intense schedule, you don't end up with the bottles situation, or constantly having them have to hope they can secure a break and find an open restroom, and it's a mess. So yeah, they really ought to put a cassette toilet like under, well, maybe not under the driver's seat, but tuck it away somewhere in the van where it's horizontal, so you don't have to deal with that. And then that's a good idea. All right, let's see. Let's continue.
mobile service truck, which can go anywhere. Tell us a bit about this.
Yeah, so we tried to package a lot of the same equipment into this vehicle as well. So we've got jack and jack stands, along with most of the standard tools that we need for doing common repairs.
Awesome.
There we go. I like this idea. More manufacturers should do it, although most of them have dealer networks, so you got to really convince the dealers to make this kind of investment, and most of them won't, which is unfortunate. 99 replies. I'm curious what kind of stuff they say. Tesla should buy some vans for Rivian. Would be better look than the Ford vans they use now. They don't really use the Ford vans that much anymore. They haven't retired them all, but they use Model X and they use Model S. Uh, Tesla's using Ford ice vans for mobile service after all this time. Um, I mean, yeah, you've already bought them, so why retire them early? But at the same time, you've got uh, reject cars, and Model X's, and you've got lease turn-ins that won't be resellable, and you've got the same people who already are working on them that need to drive them around. So now they can keep them running. It's kind of a good pairing to have these marginal cars and the technicians. It's a very effective use of the money. Because ever you're not throwing away a car that you could use, or worse, putting a car out there for somebody to pick up at auction that now you've got to have to make constant service calls on. Versus if the technician drives it every day, they can just, oh yeah, I need to do this and get it done. You know, you could explode. You'd rather burn gas? I don't think so. Can you imagine Tesla mobile service showing up in a Rivian branded van? I can, but what would probably happen before that, because remember that right now the vans are exclusive for sale. They're exclusive to Amazon for a couple of years. So by the time that the Rivian van is ready for sale in the US and Canada, the Tesla van should be ready. At the same time, I do wonder now about this partnership that they started up with Mercedes, they being Rivian here. Uh, will we see any Rivian vans or a different model of Rivian van that's not exclusive to Amazon in Europe as soon as they decide where they're going to store their partnership and what factories can operate out of? Um, will that happen faster? It'd be good to see. And then, of course, is it going to be a separate model or is it going to be the same van? I think it'd be cool if it'd be the same van, but it all depends on what that contract with Amazon says. Mobile repair concept worked pretty well with my Model S. I had my first R1T mobile repair this week, but it's just to update the tire pressure sticker on my truck, which wasn't available after adding a spare tire. Oh, that's right, yeah, because the spare tire is listed on the sticker. That's pretty cool. They're sending a repair truck to you for a sticker. I guess it's to make sure that it actually gets on there, because if they just mail it to him, he might not stick it on there. I wonder how many people ever check the pressure in their spare tire. You would be surprised how few people check the spare. But at the same time, the cool thing with the Rivian truck, the R1T, is it's got the built-in air compressor. So when you go to put it on, might as well hook up the hose. It's right there. And then I also would be astounded and dumbfounded at the number of people who will not do that, even though it's right there. Let's see. Rivian would do well to sell their advanced to customers if only Amazon allowed it. Yes, if only Amazon allowed it. Yeah, they assuming that Amazon doesn't, they've got another period at the end of this exclusivity period where they can lock it up again. But if they choose not to lock it up again, then it will be available for sale. And yeah, they are currently supply constrained. All right, so let's move on to something else. Let's see. Well, no, I wanted to see the other comments on this thing. Okay, it opens a new window. Because I'm curious if he responded to any of them, because he is not Elon active on Twitter, but he is pretty active on Twitter. And maybe there's a follow-up. I love it when they do the follow-ups. Great to see. Definitely getting ahead of the industry issue. Love to see the vans being used elsewhere. They're a great invention. They are. There are a lot of people who would be happy to order a van someday, and congrats on the awards for your website. Shout out to the team and individual that designed it. Great question. Drive Tesla's asking, when is the first Canadian service center going to open? And let's see. Okay, so mostly just kind of, this is cool. Let's move on to the next thing, which is our friend Kyle Connor has tweeted about something that I think is really cool. And Omar or Dan shared this one with us. He didn't just say paste, he said paste and go. Where's the go? So the Tesla CCS1 combo adapter is now available on the Tesla store for $250 if your car already says CCS enabled on the additional details page on your software screen. Mine says nothing. So the car will either say nothing, or it'll say it's not enabled, or it'll say it's enabled. And if it's enabled, you can go ahead and order this today. And the last time I checked, it wasn't sold out. It'll allow your car to charge up to 250 kilowatts on third-party CCS1 chargers. So that's North America and Japan, South Korea. But when I looked, my car said, "Oh yeah, you need a retrofit coming soon in 2023." So we'll see. It would be nice to go at 250 kilowatts on third-party stations instead of whipping out my CHAdeMO adapter and going at a whopping 32 kilowatts. It says it can do 50, but it never does. It never does. The highest I saw was like 42 for a second. I don't mean like the ramp. It was just literally 42 and back down to 38. It's like, oh, thanks. Whenever I can get this, I will put my CHAdeMO adapter up for sale. Let's see. Robert says, I've seen some starting at $69 on Amazon and eBay. And let's see, anything else with this? Another thing that came up with this is some folks were asking, yeah, that's what you said in your tweet. Another thing that some folks were asking is how come they never see 250? How come it seems that it's going slower? One, maybe it's because the support wasn't officially enabled in North America. And two, is most likely, from what I understand, is that while the third-party chargers do operate at 400 volts like Tesla, their solution for super fast charging is 800 volt architecture. So since Tesla can only do 400 volts and not 800 volts at the moment, meaning the current cars, Elon has said that they might do 800 volts for the Semi and they might do it for the Cybertruck, and going forward we'll see. It's to re-architect the existing cars, it wasn't worth the effort, but to do it on a fresh car, you could save a couple dollars on cabling and wiring. But The point about that is at 400 volts, the currently deployed stations, very few of them can do the same number of amps as the Tesla cars, as the Tesla chargers. So 400 volts times, I usually see 400 and some odd amps on the Tesla, uh, versus 400 volts and say 350 amps or 250 amps is not going to get you the same level of charge as you're going to get on the Tesla. So that might be why you're seeing a difference. And I've also seen folks questioning why you would want a CCS adapter when you've got the supercharger network everywhere. There are people who go to places where the supercharger network is still thin. There are folks who have third-party chargers that are more directly on their routes. There are folks that happen to have a free CCS charger nearby. There are folks who want to take advantage of the price differences of the local CCS stations. And then finally, you've got the folks that are in congested areas like Southern California, who might be able to uh, get on a little bit, just a little bit quicker during the busy travel holidays if they had yet another option to pick. So I think that what we might see if this thing becomes more common is we might see more Teslas just everywhere rather than just saying the supercharger full and the others stations next to them just completely empty, or one or two cars showing up for an hour, not for an hour because that would be ridiculous on a road trip, but per hour. The Where was I going with that? Um, yes. So as we saw, the mega installations that Tesla's got going out in California, the four stations that have to be 50% CCS because they are using public funds. I was wondering if some of the more petty Tesla owners, the ones that are always complaining about opening up the superchargers to other people, this Southern California, what do we need more for ourselves, blah blah blah. I'm wondering if a few of them will try to use the CCS side of those superchargers first. So they'll put an adapter on, and it's got another adapter into their Tesla to see if perhaps they can kind of lock out the non Teslas. I'm not saying that's good behavior. And what I would probably do if I was in that situation is just because I'm kind of lazy with the plugging in, just use the regular one. And if I get there and all the Tesla plugs are in use, but not all of the Tesla CCS plugs, I might be inclined to just take the adapter out, put it on the Tesla adapter, put it in the car, and see what happens. That's assuming that, of course, that these other stalls don't have that magic dock or whatever the thing actually ends up getting called. Um, because if that's not ready, Tesla can still do what they do in Europe and either do a double cable or literally just 50% of them will just have just CCS. It depends on part supply and and engineering, etc. Um, but if I had the adapter and they were only CCS and the other side was full, I would definitely be adapting a Tesla charger to my Tesla because I don't want to wait. I don't blame them. Although I say all this as if waiting is this huge concern. It's not a huge concern for me. As I've mentioned, in the 6 years I've owned Teslas now, I've waited twice that weren't because of towing. The reason I always specify the not for towing is on the East Coast, we don't have any pull through stations that I've been to yet. We do have a couple that are set up for towing, where somebody is either not known or just been lazy and occupied the nose in spaces, which are designed for towing and bicycle racks and like the trailer cooler sort of things. Not trailer, but the tow hitch cooler sort of things. And most people, except for that blue Model S from Florida, most of them are pretty cool. But they got to see you, or you got to catch them before they leave. Like, hey, I need that. Do you mind using that one on the other side, please? And man, with today's just anger climate, I'd rather not interrupt anybody and ask them, hey, do you mind not being a blockage to me? All right, let's see what people tell Kyle. I wonder when Supercharger will be open to other Tesla vehicles. Hopefully soon. Yes, it's very soon. Instead of retrofitting, it's best to add a couple of stalls with CCS Combo 1. Yeah, that's coming too. All right. That's coming. Chevy Bolt, so they can parallel park, blocking 3 stalls for an hour. This is probably part of the other reason that the V4 superchargers are going to have those longer cables. Is just and they're probably going to be seated differently in the stalls, just so they can reach more of these cars that have either a centered nose plug or just the wrong side of the car plug. Well, not really plug, receptacle. Yeah, it's a receptacle because the plug is on the. All right, let's see what's next from these guys. All right, so then I think this one was Omar. GM is to sell up to 175,000 electric vehicles through Hertz, to Hertz through 2027. It's interesting because right now GM isn't exactly cranking out the cars. We've seen them do it in the past, so they'll get back. The question is when and why is it taking so long? GM has agreed to sell 175,000 EVs to Hertz Hertz Global over the next 5 years, and the deal calls for GM to start supplying EVs such as the Bolt and Bolt EUV to rental car giants starting next year. So is it 5 years or 4 years? It'd be 5 years. It starts in 2023. No, because 5 years from now is 2027. So it's really a 4-year deal. Semantics, math. That's not something that the news is good at. Follows Hertz agreements with Tesla and Polestar to help build out the company's rental electric fleet. So I'm wondering then if they've got 200,000 Teslas, 200,000 Polestars, and almost 200,000 GMs, might they be going EV only? Or are they getting ready for the fossil sales bans? Next question then would be how many cars does Hertz buy overall? Let's look that up in a minute. All right, so they're gonna do Ultium Blazer. Yeah, that's probably part of it right there. Is that GM has a wider assortment of EVs, like so they can fill all those different price categories. Versus Polestar's got right now one car for them to pick from, and Tesla's got technically four, but will they all work with a rental fleet? I don't see them using too many Model S's and X's unless you want premium or luxury or whatever Hertz is going to call the executive cars. And so you've got 3 and Y basically, and then you're going to need more. You're going to need more. So I can see them. It makes sense to do this with GM here, and Polestar, and let's see who they pull in next. Are they going to pull in some Lucids? Are they going to pull in who else makes affordable cars? Because Lucid is not it. People don't really rent that many trucks, so I can see them doing a Rivian and a Ford Lightning. You can do Ford Mustang Mach-E's. Hertz has always done Mustangs. In fact, they usually had a specific trim of Mustang, like the Hertz edition. It had the gold and all that. Let's see, it's good for business. Blah blah blah. Let's go to my question there. How big is Hertz fleet? Da, 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 da. 15,050 trucks in 1954. All right, so they say don't research at Wikipedia, but there we go. 182,500 cars as part of the bankruptcy. So that's how much they had to reduce the fleet by. So let's see if it says how big the fleet was before they reduced it. All right, I've clicked the link. It's opening a new window. Hertz global rental average fleet size from 12 to 20 in 1,000 vehicles. So let's go ahead and do this here. All right, so let's view for free. No. Seriously? Well, I've got it on another page before they started trying to paywall me. In 2012, it was 359.1 thousand vehicles, or million vehicles, because it's in thousands. And then in 2020, it was at 423.99 thousands of vehicles, down from 534.88. Yeah, that'd be a million. And so let's go back. What did Wikipedia say? Like I say, you don't want to do your research from them, but for what we're doing, it's fine. Oh, I see what happened. I didn't copy the link, I copied the text. There we go. Hey, don't scroll past, give us a donation. Fleet. There we go. BYD, Mercedes, Cadillac, Land Rover, BMW, Porsche, Jaguar, Mazda, Volvo, Tesla, Toyota, Tesla 2, Jeep, Lincoln. All right, all right. I was looking for a number, but they didn't give it to us. OJ Simpson. I gotta see what's OJ Simpson got to do with he appeared as a spokesperson in the ads. Uh, okay, okay. And then they replaced him because he became toxic. Let's see. Next up, we've got an article where when I first saw the pictures, I was curious if they were reporting it correctly because these in the photos they look small, and Rivian is doing both the DC and AC charging networks that they're expanding out. Um, but when I saw that it was on electric, I figured that they can tell the difference between a CCS charger and a J1772. So I stopped doubting it. But like the likes of NBC, CNN, all them, I don't know that they know the difference. I mean, certainly they can figure it out, but Rivian's network of DC fast charging stations, called the Adventure Network, is slowly but surely expanding out this week, and other automakers should pay attention to reopen it. All right, so I want this camera, and it's upside down because it literally is upside down. So we put this filter on, and boom, I appear correct. All right. Robert says I was trying to link the video with CCS adapter, the other one. There are a couple of them out there. There's some that are knockoffs, and then there's two that are reverse engineered, sort of. They're not really reverse engineered. They are completely different things. They're very much like the Chatamo adapter, where they actively convert and actively translate the signals. So they would work on a car like mine that hasn't been retrofitted. Somebody else asked me, they said, "Oh, I thought you would have done it already." And I looked, and I would have done it already, except I didn't know anybody who could update my gateway. And if your gateway is not updated, you can't DC charge or AC charge. So I would have a paperweight. Was it last week? Last week I went out and I think I told you guys the story. I was torquing the lug nuts and broke the socket. Yeah, I talked to you about it because Robert was showing me lug nuts instead of sockets. Um, but the point of that was I was looking at the tires, and it's almost time to change them again. And I was getting upset because I thought it was a year for the tires, but it was actually 2 years ago I changed the tires. It was in 2020, so I got 2 years out of them. That's not bad, given the way that we drive and what we drive. A heavy bus, a fast heavy bus that the autopilot loves to slam on the brakes. Well, at least it used to. The new one is much better. Speaking of much better, 10.69.2.2 was deployed to the car. I don't remember when, sometime since we last spoke, and it is further smoothed out. It is when it's good, it's better, and it does feel more comfortable. But on the drives that I did with it so far, it required a lot of correction as far as like it would pick the wrong lane, or I just didn't like the way it was driving, and I would just correct it. Um, but that was only the first day out, and I did not reboot it before I went on those drives. So now that it's had time to rest, probably when we go get groceries or whatever, I'll try it out again. And if somebody asks me, I'll tell you how it was. Or if it's just marvelous and matches up with the California or Elon description, then I'll be gushing and be glad to tell you myself without having to be prompted. All right, let's see. Yeah, most automakers don't do their own charging. The closest you get with a traditional automaker, um, you've got two different approaches. You've got Volkswagen, which was required by law to build out Electrify America and Electrify Canada, and then you've got Ford with their Ford Angels program, where they go through and they make sure that their cars work with all of the deployment of chargers out there. And if they report a charger isn't working, and then the charging operator doesn't respond, or if they do respond, but after a certain number of uh, either visits or time to remedy the situation, they still continue to fail to work with Ford, Ford will actually remove them from the trip computer, and so then they lose all Fords, which kind of gives them an incentive to get their stuff working correctly. So most automakers rely on third-party networks. So here's a view with a human for scale. This is RJ Sarons again, and this looks like it's in the Rivian factory. Keep the world adventurous forever. All right. And so I'm not sure. It's weird. He's wearing a black T-shirt under that. It looks like, and then with the lights, it's a weird effect. So that's cool. I like them when they're compact like this. So this looks like they're doing the remote pedestal approach rather than the everything all in the one unit, which I think looks better and also saves you from vandals and bad drivers. Like if somebody nudges up against it, you're only replacing the pedestal and not a whole charger. If somebody wants to risk their lives and snag your cable, you're not having to replace a whole charger. You're just replacing, well, depending on what they do, you're not replacing the whole expensive part of the charger. You're just replacing an expensive cable. Manufacturing our own DC fast chargers equals expanding our network in a cost-effective, large-scale way with a focus on ensuring a great charging experience. We opened up 2 more fast charging sites in California, and which help unlock the rugged beaches and ancient redwoods of the Lost Coast to EV travel. Coming soon, Barstow, an essential link to the Mojave Desert and Las Vegas, and plenty more. So I think what they need to do here is do what Tesla's doing and open this up to everyone, because right now I think they're a little too small to have an exclusive network. What they ought to do is just like they're doing with their J1772 connectors. Those are open to everybody. Do what Tesla does and say, hey, if you're not driving a Rivian, this is the price you'll pay. If you're driving anything else, this is the price you pay. Or steal the whole concept. Hey, here is a membership plan. So if you're not a Rivian owner, you can pay the same price if you pay us $20 a month, and it would be a better experience. Plus, it gets everybody driving a Ford and a Tesla and a GM, where this is the closest or best station for you. It gets you seeing that Rivian logo for a good couple minutes every time you go for a drive, just like that, right there. But who am I? So I'm gonna click on this. That's probably gonna open a Twitter window, but it says Instagram, so I might be able to scroll through these. Let's see. Yes. All right. So Redwood Forest. I guess she's a engineer or technician. It doesn't say. Uh, there we go. Packaging them up, getting them ready to go. I like that they match the car. That's cool. All right, so they've got cooling on board. So they probably got liquid cooled cables. All right. All right, so currently it's quite hard to deploy DC fast charging stations. Yes, that's true. You get a bunch of stuff right. They announced the Adventure Network with 600 locations more than a year ago, and it opened its first stations in June. A few months later, it still only has 6 stations in operation, with a new one opening in Barstow this week. All the stations in operation are in yellow, are in California, except for one in Colorado. Yeah, see, I think even better than even competing with Tesla and just copying their idea, which would work and it would make them, it would be good for business, is if they just do a partnership. Like, hey, you've got all of these out there. We'll go in with you on the new ones, and I think that would be a better experience for the customer because then they can pick the weird forest installs, and then they can know that if they've got somebody who's got a pavement princess that never leaves the highway, that they can just go to the superchargers. But if they're getting ready to go into a national park, then Rivian's got them. And then Tesla doesn't have to worry about the folks at the Cybertruck who want to go off roading because they can just plug into a Rivian charger with their adapter, which is finally on sale. I think that would be a great partnership. We'll see what happens there. Robert says 2 more chargers were vandalized where he is. Yeah, I've got one too. Let me just pull that one up next. Um, phone and PC don't like to synchronize the notes live. They do them on their own schedule. So let's see. Search doesn't work, of course. Well, I'll deal with that later. Let's move on. All right, now the mouse doesn't want to work. All right, here we go. Close that. All right, so on what drives us? Yeah, I think it's what drives us. We talked about Nikola and their, or at least Trevor Milton anyway, and their court case for fraud, um, allegedly. Well, now we've got a GM engineer testifying that the Nikola Badger pickup truck had no Nikola parts at all, which is the same thing that Hindenburg had said about the Nikola hydrogen trucks and the Nikola battery trucks. So this is probably true. All right, so the engineer provided some insights. I think this is coming from Omar. It might be Dan. I'd have to go look. And it's another window. Provided insights that the ill-fated Nikola Badger pickup truck, particularly the parts that would have been used, had the vehicle entered production. The $2 billion deal with GM, 11% stake of the automaker. 70% Nikola, 30% GM when it comes to the parts that are really important to us, Milton said. According to Damon, this is false. While Nikola did own the Badger's creative design, all the parts inside the vehicle were set to come from GM, according to the GM engineer. Wow. 30% and 100% are incredibly different numbers. Did this guy just lie when his lips were moving, or was he optimistic? There were no components coming from Nikola. They only created a design, what the vehicle looked like and felt like, but all other parts were to come from General Motors. He told the jury in federal court in Manhattan. Yikes. The Badger had some momentum, so much that the company started taking $5,000 down payments. It was heavily promoted online, with Nikola getting the support of notable influencers such as the Diesel brothers. That went well. The Badger was supposed to be unveiled later in the year, but the event was canceled. Ultimately, the Badger was canceled as GM scaled back its commitments on Nikola and dropped its plans for a stake in the company. Oh, they didn't buy their 11%, 17%, whatever. Had the Badger been unveiled, however, former Nikola employee Brendan Briers told the jury that the company did have a plan of sorts in the form of a vehicle made partly with components from a Ford F-150 Raptor, a chopped-up electric Nikola power sports vehicle. That sounds reliable. Let's get GM to build a Ford and then shove it together with our ATV. Yeah, that's gonna go well. Lock him up. Take Elon with you, say, okay. Mm, All right, let me get out these comments. Da, 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 da. While we're talking about Nicola, let me go find another link. Copy link. Let's keep talking about Nicola some more. So, in addition to their lawsuit and this allegation about the Badger, Nikola has recalled 93 Nikola Tre battery electric vehicle trucks. Um, I didn't know they had so many deployed, actually. I knew that they had actually started making deliveries, but that's significantly more than I expected. Um, so 93 on recall, one controversy after another. I don't think a recall is a controversy, though. NHTSA is now recalling 93 of them due to an issue with the seatbelt. That's pretty important. The company revealed that the shoulder anchorage of the seatbelt in some trucks could become detached when a load is placed on it. This is due to improper installation. The problem was first reported by an employee in July on a truck that had been delivered to a dealership. This is not as fast as I'd like to see. I mean, from what we've been seeing with Ford and Tesla and GM with their recalls, is like weeks. Like boom. I mean, I know this can be measured in weeks, but it'd be more common to measure it in months, from July to September. Yikes! Because like the last one I think we reported on was one of those three, and it was in August, and it was in early September when they got it out there. Uh, Robert says, and there was another vehicle called the Badger, a military. I think the Badger is the ATV that they would have chopped up to put into this truck. Wait, no, the Badger is the one that they were talking with the lawsuit about. There was another one, not the Badger. They've got cutesy names for all their stuff, and I'm not used to that anymore. All the automakers are using stupid code numbers like the X50 and the G12 and the come on now. All right, so they discovered the problem, which was caused by the final torque on the shoulder anchors not being installed to spec. Yeah, use your torque wrenches, fellas. There's not one ugga dugga with the air wrench. You gotta snug it up and then go to the clicks. Clicks or beeps or whatever your torque wrench does. Mine clicks. Well, the one I use the most clicks. The one I use for the steering wheel video beeps. All right, so then here's their safety recall. And while we're talking about recalls, I had a photo of one that I got from my email, but instead, let me see how I'm going to do this. I got to make sure I got the right link. I'm glad I checked because that wasn't the right link. Everything's out of order. How is that possible? Like literally, I've got a picture of a recall, and then all the links around it are not about that recall. Do a search one more time and see if it comes up. Search found the word recall in the picture, which is true. There we go. Way down the page. All right, we're going to copy the link and we're going to bring this up to you guys. Paste and go. So Tesla is issuing a recall for over 1 million vehicles. This is yet another critical patch. What's happening here is the vehicle is currently out of standard for auto reversing on the windows should they encounter an obstacle. So if you have an obstacle like where I did a couple videos where I put obstacles in the way of the car's motorized parts, something that's non-human and it goes in there and reverses. But the problem is right now with the amount of torque it's doing on some of these vehicles, it could injure a child if a child is sitting there playing with the window and they put their hand in there and then they roll it up and before it reverses, it needs more force than is acceptable. And that is on some Model 3s, newer Model X's and S's, and some Model Ys. Let's go through the list. Covers 1,096,762 vehicles, including 2021 to 2022 Model S and X, 2017 to 2022 Model 3, and 2020 to 2021 Model Y. And by definition of the word recall, this is a recall. But by connotation of the word recall, this is nothing of the sort. You're gonna get a regular software update. It's gonna come in. You're gonna push go on your app, or if you're sitting in the car, you're gonna push install now or install later, and then it's done after the car restarts. It's not you don't got to bring the car in. There's no stop driving order. There's no fanfare to this. It's just a in the meantime, be careful that your children's fingers are nowhere near the windows. Be careful your fingers and neck are nowhere near the window, and they'll be fine. Very similar to how uh, nonchalant the government was about how when the cars were out of compliance for the reverse camera, either the reverse camera being slow or the reverse camera um, wiring being frayed, they said, "Oh, just turn your head and you'll be fine." Well, this one's not as simple because now you got to actually check before you operate the windows, and you got. I'd probably recommend turning on the child window locks until you get the update if you have anybody who might stick stuff through the window while you're not paying attention. But this further highlights the need to better describe what's going on because we talked about that Mercedes order where Mercedes said, "Stop your car where it is, park it. We're going to send you a loaner, and we're going to send a tow truck to come get your car, and then when it's done, we'll bring it back and come get the loaner." Uh, that's what people are afraid of when they hear the word recall. They hear that. They hear airbags fail to deploy. They hear airbags are actual shotguns shooting shrapnel at the people. They hear um, car catching fire, tires blowing out. That's what people think of when they hear recall, not, oh, the charger overheated and turned itself off, or, oh, the camera loads up half a second too slow and it's all fixed with a software update while I sleep. That's the level of freak out is not the same. I mean, there are some really serious issues that can be fixed with over the air, like I don't think we've actually had a case of it, but say the parameters were set wrong for the charger, and it could either set a fire to the 12 volts or high voltage battery, or we saw on the Ford where they had their feature update originally with the Mach E, where the motors could lose power because they put the wrong parameters in. Those are more serious, but again, they were still fixed with a patch. I want a level of hey, be concerned. This could affect you, could be dangerous, but it's still a patch. Or hey, this is a minor inconvenience and it's a patch. Or hey, this is a minor inconvenience, but you got to bring it to us because it's hardware. Or we're going to come to you because it's hardware. Or hey, this is a critical safety stop drive now, like we saw with that Mercedes. Uh, we need some better system. I understand that with the recall, they're calling it that because they have to email you, they have to mail you a letter, they have to keep track, they have to report compliance to the government. All of that is good stuff. But our 24-hour news cycle isn't set up to deal with simple nuance like that. They see recall, they say freak out, 1 million vehicles, run for your life, and that's not helpful, but it does get them more people sticking around after the break, and they can watch the advertisements. And I, we're in a bad place with this, and it can get better. And I understand that part of this is because all recalls, software or hardware, used to require you to go to the dealership, but now we've got 7 vehicle manufacturers that regularly do software updates and and patches, compliance updates, that sort of thing. But they all, like the Nikola, they all can end up with a hardware situation where you got to bring it in because it's a safety issue. If the seatbelt is set wrong and you get into a crash, it's gonna undo or not have the proper amount of give, and either one of those can cause injury to the driver. This window situation, I'm not sure how far off the torque spec is. It could just be painful, or it could break the skin. I don't know. It could crush push a finger. I don't know that, but it's not like where the Mustang was potentially either going, and it was weird for the Mustang because it would either go full throttle or it'd go zero throttle, and either one of those would be bad. If you're in the middle of a highway and decides, oh yeah, I'm out of spec, I'm not going, that's bad. Or if you're in traffic and it decides, oh yeah, you need more power, boom, that's bad. But and then the Mercedes situation where they said, do not drive the car, the frame could destroy itself, etc., etc. That was bad, and we need terminology, we need nuance, and we need to start on that like immediately. And then the news, the parrots, they'll just say, "Oh yeah, there's a safety patch on Thursday for 5 million Fords," and and they won't even bother with it. But it's not just Tesla; it's just easier to get more clicks with Tesla. Oh, every Tesla ever made is under recall. Uh, versus 90 million Mercedes say don't drive them, and I mean they'll freak out about that as well, but they do it as if it's normal in that particular case, and we need something else to handle this. All right, let's keep going. We talked about the GM engineer. Uh, Speaking of clickbait, man, we've got this. Da, 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 da. Huh, my numbers are missing. Just says I'm live. YouTube tells me how many of you guys there are, but missing the LinkedIn and the Twitch and the Facebook. Stop moving my cheese. Anyway, so filmmaker has offered influencers $100 to bash Tesla and Elon Musk. Um, some smaller influencers, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, streamers, Twitch, whatever, $100 might be enough to sell your soul for, but not me. I don't know any of the other folks I work with, talk to, and watch that they would do this. Definitely not for $100. You make it a more substantial amount, some of them would be willing to do it, and then later on make another video saying what happened. But I don't know anyone who do it for $100. So here's what's going on. This influencer is filmmaker is hiring 75 to 100 influencers to record themselves bashing Musk and Tesla. And the tip includes a screenshot below as a casting call for influencers to bash Tesla, Musk, and autonomous driving. So the film is going to be called Man versus Musk. It expires in October 23rd. It's for a short film. It's paid, work from home, non-union. Yeah, probably because the union doesn't want you to perjure yourself. uh, Destructive Driving by Elizabeth Harris, coordinated. Posted 6 jobs. So they're looking for Scott's role in combating distracted driving, seeking 75 to 100 actors with strong social media following. Yeah, you're not going to get somebody with a strong social media presence for $100. Following to read and self-record a new 10 to 15-minute monologue, stating it was co-written by Scott and award-winning playwright and Charlie Schulman. What's up, Exotic Geeks? Yeah, I mean, like, nobody would be able to get you to do a video for $100 to basically lie on stage like this, right? Estimated amount is $100 for 1 hour of work, and there's details of what they wanted. They need to record themselves reading the script and upload the video to social media before receiving the $100. And at this time of this writing, there are 2 influencers who have read and uploaded the script, which starts out in quotes, "Hey everybody, how's it going? Thanks for coming. I'm XYZ. Welcome to Man vs. Musk, a show, comedy, call to action, political movement that requires attention, focus on the Musk, blah, blah." So, they're coming from a good place, but they are just like so much else that's just straight up anti-Tesla and anti-Musk. they're wrong. Um, they're afraid of distracted driving. Well, have you noticed that there's millions of Teslas on the road that have cameras that look out, and a smaller portion, but still significant, millions of Teslas that have a camera that faces the driver. And now over 100,000 of these drivers, if they pick up the phone while they're driving, the car flags them and beeps at them. Hey, hands on the wheel. Hey, pay attention. And it does this even for folks who aren't in the FSD beta, but the folks that are in the FSD beta, over 100,000 drivers, um, where they stand to lose access to their feature if they do it. So they are a little more incentivized than just the annoying hands on wheel, pay attention. I'm gonna let go now. Um, they've got all of that, plus they would lose their FSD beta very quickly. So to suggest that Tesla's doing nothing about distracted driving is a lie, or you are not paying attention to what it is you're advocating. Just like we saw with Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders constantly flagging on Musk for not paying taxes, even though he did, and with those two plus Robert Reich not understanding how uh, how how stock market profits work, where you don't actually have the money until you cash out. And I'm wondering if this is that, or if this is more malicious, like we saw where uh, somebody thinks they're doing good work for their clients, like Dan Greenhill. His name isn't Greenhill, but Dan at Greenhill. With his lies about Tesla, thinking that he's going to make it better for his customer, Mobileye and GM and Mercedes and everybody else, by getting Tesla out of the running, but instead he's making their lives more difficult. Um, so yeah, the script indicates that the influencers record themselves claiming that Elon Musk has been intentionally tone deaf to distracted driving, and as I just said, that is clearly not the case if they are actively making the car harder to be a distracted driver in. And let's see, empowering drivers to display attention uh, uh, from the ability to pay attention to keep their car on the road. That's not the case because the car isn't self-driving. It's a level 2 assist. You have to be there to help. It's a team. You and the computer and you, not you by yourself, not the computer by itself. Because if you do make a mistake, sometimes and the system is off. If you do make a mistake, as long as the system isn't disconnected, like if you're drifting out of your lane, it'll step in. As we saw a couple weeks ago, if you're reversing into somebody, it may stop you. Uh, that doesn't sound like they're not trying to me. Yes, it could be better, but it's built by humans. It's not perfect yet. They don't claim it's perfect yet. They don't even claim it's sellable yet. it's it's an extra add-on. Then they complain about ludicrous mode. Uh, you're not using ludicrous mode while distracted, because one, no matter how short your attention span is, ludicrous mode is very fast. In 2.8 seconds in my case, 1 point, or sorry, 2.0 seconds. Yeah, 2.0 seconds in other cases. Let me reset this camera again. Da, da, da. Ludicrous mode isn't something you're going to be using while distracted, unless they mean like me. I literally leave it in ludicrous mode all the time, but I don't use ludicrous launches, and I don't use ludicrous plus mode um, all the time. Definitely not while distracted. Da, 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 da. So I don't know. What do you people think about this? Exotic says, while decisive, Elon did cash out and pay his taxes. Cash out and pay his taxes. So now the other wealthy people not so much. Exactly, and that's what I took offense to, was that they kept using him as a whipping boy rather than pointing out that Bezos and a whole bunch of other people like Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, all these others did the exact same stuff, and they instead of spreading it around, they just kept saying Elon, 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 even after he paid the biggest tax or generated the biggest tax bill ever. I don't think he has to pay it till the upcoming April. Uh, and this is why Elon lashed out and said, I'm not voting for them again," because he every time he opened up the news, he was getting whipped, and his reaction was not one I agree with, but I understand it. If I every time I opened up the paper and saw my name in it with something bad, I might get a little bit touchy. I guarantee you I would, but I don't know I would respond the way he did. But I would definitely get agitated. All right, so Tesserati, I think this is Jana. Yeah, this one's Jana. She says her 2.5 cents. As someone who's actually met Musk, well, witnessed FSD beta stop for cyclists and pedestrians. Yeah, mine is super nice. Like it waits for them to leave the pavement before it continues to resume. Um, a filmmaker does want to do good and see themselves as doing good, but their actions are based upon misinformation and, quite frankly, Tesla FUD. And that is often spread by mainstream media. Yeah, we saw this with the again with Dan, not our Dan, but Dan O'Dowd, where he was saying that the car hits children and pedestrians, and then we saw immediately after that Japan and Australia did their crash test, and the car stopped for the child dummy. Who's right? The government organization or some fool trying to sell his competitor's product? And I don't just mean trying to sell; like he's like maliciously lying about it. Like uh, the car is displaying an error message, and he won't let us see what the error message is. And then they purposely loaded up a lower resolution, and not just lower, but like a minimum resolution image of what's going on the screen there, so that you can't read what it says. Uh, and then putting cones everywhere, so the car thinks it can't drive anywhere else because now the car thinks it's in a construction zone, and so now it doesn't have anywhere to swerve to because what they found when they didn't have the cones there is the car would just swerve and brake and not hit the kid. And so now with the cones up, you throw the kid out there and you have the driver put their foot on the pedal and hold it down, and yes, it's going to hit the dummy. But take away any of those elements, either take away the dummy or take away the cones or take away the driver holding their foot down, uh, the car is going to use an option to avoid that situation, either steering or braking or I guess it won't break if the foot's still on the pedal, but take out any of those and the car doesn't hit the dummy. All right, so then she brings up some stats. One accident for every 4.19 million miles driven with autopilot engaged. One accident for every 2.05 million accidents driven without autopilot engaged, but with Tesla's active safety features. And one accident for every 978,000 miles driven without autopilot and without active safety features. Uh, the people who think that this is like the worst car ever, they're operating on gut feeling and lies. They're not necessarily their own lies, but other people's lies, and then they take it in. Uh, for each quarter, Tesla said by comparison, NHTSA's most recent data shows that the United States there's an automobile crash every 484,000 miles. So let's go back to Q1 again. That's double the safety factor for their cars with nothing turned on. Let's go to Q4 2021. One accident every 4.31 million miles with autopilot engaged, and one accident every 1.59 million miles without autopilot and without safety features. So they didn't even have a middle one on these three. So that's without autopilot and without active safety features. It got way better. A million times, a million more miles right there. That's incredible. Although the documented accidents and the NHTSA documented fatalities, Tesla's numbers show that with autopilot and active safety features engaged, there are fewer incidents than without. Yeah, absolutely. And again, even when they become fully autonomous and like nearly perfect, they're going to crash and they're going to have incidents, but it better be a lot less than the people, which is exactly what Tesla and the other makers are going for. Uh, da, 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 Personally, she finds it sad and disheartening this filmmaker isn't using facts or data and is manipulating young people into spreading misinformation about Tesla, Elon Musk, and autonomous driving for an easy $100. Okay, that is a good point. She points out young people. I could see some kids. Oh, $100. I'll just do this. Okay, done. Um, but are they looking for children to do this? Because you're looking for somebody who looks like they can drive a car, looks like they can afford the car, to spread your message. Because if I see a bunch of 13-year-olds saying, "Oh, this car is unsafe," I'm going to look into it and find out that they're reading from script and it's based on nonsense. Down Productions. It very well could be. Uh, the desperation is real with Tesla Q, which the Q stands for stock ticker bankrupt. So they want Tesla bankrupt. Tesla pays nothing to advertise while detractors are paid $100 an hour. Says it all. That's true. You're not much of an influencer if you go for $100. Sure, you may be one of the few getting the short film. 15 minutes times 75 to 100 influencers is 19 to 25 minutes of monologue. Not only that, but unless they're splicing between people, just reading through the different sentences, um, I'm not going to sit here. Like, if I was interested and didn't know better, I would not sit here and listen to um, 20 minutes of people saying the same thing. Um, kind of like the people on Fiverr, yeah, but I've used Fiverr. I haven't done any work for Fiverr, but I've been a customer of theirs, and it's kind of hit or miss. I get some real professionals on there, and other times you get like, what was that? What you think that's worth money? um, I think that's a little different. I think that's more like a contract art sort of situation. But you're right. There's probably a section on Fiverr I haven't delved into that does this, and you're right. If they did that, they'd probably get. If they have that, they might get more results. I wonder if the filmmaker sold the concept of getting a huge investment from some anti-Tesla or Musk group. Yeah, probably. I'm guessing they'll cut sound bites of influencer going XYZ says this about Musk. There's high risk and little reward, unless, of course, you are an influencer that hates Tesla and Musk. That's $100 to say something you agree with. Looking forward to the Tesla legal team response. That's another good point. Because remember, their legal team is ramped up right now. Dun, 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 dun. Down sounds like a jerk. You read his website and he makes himself out to be some kind of saint at first. Later into the site, he says he hires the best people to do the work. Sounds like Elon's doing the same thing. So what's the beef? Jealousy? How come Dan O'Dowd, who thinks so highly of himself, doesn't create a car, launch a company, a tunnel building company, or a company to help these people that are paralyzed? Nope. He claims to be a Democrat, but in reality, he's a Republican who does nothing but complain and come up with no ideas on solving driving issue or any of the things Elon is trying to solve. I think the lack of atmospheric oxygen is driving a lot of people to say and do stupid things. I don't think it's lack of atmospheric oxygen. Remember, when I was a child, they had just stopped using leaded gasoline in road transport. Um, and they still use it in small aircraft for no good reason. Like I watched a documentary on that, and like all their excuses for why they don't use it in small aircraft are like pure laziness. Anyway, so yeah, the lead in the air, lead in your bloodstream is proven to do some of the stuff that it makes the past make more sense than the near past because we've only been running mass-produced automobiles for a little bit. I watched another piece on the guy who put the lead in the gasoline and all the other terrible inventions this guy made. Like, they lauded him as the guy who did the most harm to the world in one lifetime. Oh. All right, let's finish this scroll. Oxygen. He needs to put his money where it does the most good for humankind and less on disinformation. Well, but the disinformation is putting money in his pocket. That's what he wants. Uh, who cares that he went to Caltech? I've seen plenty of people in my career that are book smart, common sense, stupid, and he fits the bill. All right. Let's move on. That's that fool. All right, so this one was interesting to me. GM Hummer EV demand overwhelms production capacity. Mm-hmm. All right, so GM says it stopped taking reservations for the wildly popular and expensive Hummer due to limited capacity to build them. Because remember, as we talked about last time, they had improved their manufacturing to 12 or 24. I don't think that was per day either. I think it was per week or per month. It was low. Uh, This wasn't meant to be a mass-produced high sales vehicle. Who's FSR? They got a sell rating. This thing doesn't have hovers. It does not have hovers, and I don't want to click on it. Uh, oh, that's Fisker. Fisker has a sell rating and a D minus. GM is a hold, Ford is a buy, Tesla's a buy, a B minus and a B. Okay, interesting. This is one of the first ones I've seen where, other than like Ark Invest, where they actually rate Tesla reasonably. All right, so forget about inflation. There was, oh, there we go. So 9,000 plus vehicle, wildly popular but not wildly available. Yeah, because we saw the guy flip his for 300,000, or try to anyway. All right, so the one I found the first time actually had numbers in there, like how many were reserved, and this has none of that. And I closed my window. I shouldn't have done it. So basically, they're pulling a Tesla. They're years out on their orders, so they close reservations to kind of stay in line. Expected to open up again when they either add a line or when they are ready for next year's model. It's not a huge deal, but it's just weird to me the way that so many of these traditional makers just close the books rather than continuing to make them and ramp them up and build them and deal with it. All right, this one's from Dan for sure. And BYD has unveiled their E-Bus Blade platform and new electric trucks. The company showed an upgraded 12-meter electric bus for the European market. There's 13 yards. So this frame is meant for buses, but you go like 100 and I see the link about the GSE. Maybe, maybe I don't remember. Let me look. I don't show any unread, so probably. All right, so the company presented all new E-Bus Blade platform, 2 electric trucks, and the latest generation of its 12-meter electric bus for the European market. All right, so they got the trucks, the ETH on the left, and the ETM6 on the right. This is the ETM6. The second one is a smaller 7.5-ton urban delivery truck, and has a 150 kilowatt motor, 126 kilowatt hour battery of lithium iron phosphate, and up to 124 miles fully loaded, according to the manufacturer's website. DC fast charging at up to 120 kilowatts. That's kind of cool of me. Leading the charge, the EMT6 trucks. Of course, this music. Building a better future. Building your dreams. That's the name of the company, actually, Build Your Dreams. It's a sharp looking box truck. 100% electric. It's a truck doing truck things. Look at that. Is that the same truck? MT6. Yep. All right, so then they've got the bus blade concept, which also uses lithium iron phosphate chemistry with cell to pack battery system. Compact size, highly volumetric energy density. The batteries can be located on the floor, kind of like Volvo did, and carry some load, but also strengthening the vehicle structure. Okay, they don't provide any technical details, but here's a picture of it. Well, there is a detail right there: 50% reduction of what space of the battery pack. That's pretty cool. We got here. Best Buy keeps texting me in the middle of the show. 422 kilowatt hour battery from the top configuration, and is expected to have a range of 450 kilometers or 280 miles. That's not bad. It's a new generation 12-meter electric bus, still with the batteries on the roof. Uh, well, that makes sense with transit, though, because transit you want the lower floor, so you don't have to kneel the bus as much. I get it. Cumulative new energy vehicle sales, including plug-ins, battery electric vehicles, plug-in hybrids, also straight up hybrids, exceeded 2.5 million entirely in China, of course. Of 90,000 which were commercial vehicles, buses, and trucks. All right. Oh, this is cool. The Ford Lightning Pro SSV video debut. Clicking on it makes it play. That's one sharp looking truck. All right. Cool. Let's move on. All right. All right. This one's fun. That's the bus blade done. On Twitter. It says it's done. It's not done. What do you mean done? Well, anyway, while we wait for that to load. Oh, there it goes. I wonder. No, because if I switched to Starlink, I would have froze over here, and I did not freeze over here. So, SpaceX showing plans to bring Starlink to U.S. school buses, according to Do Something. Um, over 30 million children are growing up in poverty. Literacy and access to the internet are solutions to solving poverty. All right, so I didn't read the article yet, and I was thinking some of my quips were they could use it for the real-time video feeds on the school bus cameras, and then I was also thinking that they could park them next to the schools to broadcast the Wi-Fi into the school, and then that also that they could use it for real-time tracking of the vehicles and their maintenance status. Um, it's a little expensive for that last one though, even if they get a educational discount. Uh, this person says, for those that didn't read the article, SpaceX is focusing on school bus routes that are over an hour long each way and are predominantly inaccessible to other mobile broadband services. Anyhow, it's very kind of Elon and SpaceX to think about them and doing something about it. I didn't know there was such a long bus trip in the U.S. other than field trips. Without limiting what they can get on the internet, though, why not make sure they'll use the device for educational or useful things? Uh, I don't know why they. No, the first tweet above is incomplete. Should read like this. Not limiting what they can get on the internet, though we can't make sure if they will use the device for educational useful things. That's a whole nother concern. Now let's go into the article from Tesserati. This one's for Jana as well. All right, the company's collaborating with several school districts for pilot projects in rural areas of the country to support students who have to travel on long bus routes to get the student internet access while on those long rides. It's focusing on bus routes that are over an hour long each way and also predominantly inaccessible to mobile broadband services. In a letter addressed to the FCC Secretary Marlene Dortch, SpaceX expressed support for the agency's efforts to fund the schools and libraries. Dan is still adding articles to the chat. Get on the stream, Dan. Fund the schools and libraries with the Universal Service Support Mechanism (E-rate) program, connecting millions of students who don't have access to broadband internet. All right. I mean, this is cool. It makes sense. And then I had a bunch of SpaceX stuff in the notes this week. So let me move on to the next one. Before we do that, Dan's article that he just posted was also about SpaceX. So Dan's cousin thought he saw a UFO, but we all know what it was. It was a SpaceX rocket carrying Starlinks. This one was last night, I think. I don't know. There were a couple this week. Saturday evening. Yeah, it was yesterday. 52 Starlink rockets. Yeah, I had my baby in my lap. We were watching this, and she was not interested. She was more concerned with eating her hand. But she did watch when I pointed at the landing. Probably meant nothing. All right, so let's see. The next SpaceX article. Ribbon is outfitted more of their cruise ships with Starlink. And this is interesting to me because this is a Starlink Maritime terminal, but it's been fixed in position. It can't rotate. The Starlink maritime terminals, there's two antennas just like this. That way, as the ship is turning, if it manages to block the beam on one, it actually can then um, use the other one to do the job. I guess it's weird because it's a fixed angle. The ship will turn and it will go back where it came from. The other thing that you get with these high performance terminals is they get a wider view of the sky by 35 degrees more. I don't know. I'm wondering when it's in a suboptimal orientation, do they just deal with a lower speed? Because one of the things that SpaceX is working on is they are working on a dish that mounts flat and doesn't need to rotate. But this is not. Well, this could be that, but that's not. This looks more like the one that is meant to pivot and rotate. But anyway, they've got more of them, and that's cool. So you can actually get cheaper, more affordable internet when you're out at sea. And let's see, the ship is currently operating short cruises to the Bahamas based on speed tests from one passenger, downloads of 3.77 megabits per second and 3.69 megabits per second. It was a cloudy day, which could have impacted performance. It could have. They are much slower than seen on previous speed tests aboard the Freedom of the Seas. Yeah, if everybody's on it, I mean, if you're just going to spread 250 meg links between thousands of people, yeah. Starlink service is being offered at the same prices as previous internet packages, which range from $12.99 to $19.99 per day, depending on the tier. Hmm. I'm assuming that the person would use the max tier for a speed test. It doesn't say though. More important was the ping or latency, how quickly you receive data after a request. The test showed the latency of 76 milliseconds and 84 milliseconds, a big improvement over traditional satellite internet offered on cruise ships, which is often laggy and slow to respond because they're geostationary. Um, cool. Along with Independence of the Seas, crews have been spotted installing Starlink on at least 3 other ships, including the Allure of the Seas, Enchantment of the Seas, and Liberty of the Seas. This cost $10,000 to get the kit, which includes 2 satellites, 2 routers, a bunch of cabling, the foot base mount that you're not going to use on the ship, pipe adapters, which you would use on the ship, and the power injectors, and of course the dishes. And then monthly, it's $5,000 a month for the maritime service. And as I posted on my YouTube update, it's not aimed at small families, but I still think that they should have a small family maritime tier. Uh, and while we're at it, the thumbnail for this video is a picture of my car 4 years ago when it was getting ready to get delivered to me. Tachikoma just had its 4-year anniversary. Okay, so what do we see here? Where's the terminal at? I don't see the terminal in this photo. Unless it's an old one with brown dishes. I don't think so, though. Ah, there we go. I don't see it in this photo. Oh, that's the mount without the dish on it. That's why I didn't see it. There we go. Can you see my mouse? You can't see my mouse. Can you see it now? There we go. Right there. All right, so then there it is mounted. And no comments. Let's go on to the next SpaceX article. Oh, we talked about the buses already. And link. So similar to what that cruise ship rider saw, speeds off Space Starlink are dropping for some users. My system is it gets an outage every minute, but that's just because of where I've got it mounted. It's not any fault of the service that I can't keep a connection. I've got something coming for that on Tuesday. We'll talk about it later. But when my dish does have a signal, it tests out the same as it ever has. I'm getting 200 or so down, and I'm getting 50 to 80 up, and then after the test is run, it goes out. And then it's kind of interesting when I like if my phone switches over to Starlink, like just pure Starlink. Uh, I don't usually notice. Like everything just gets slower as far as like requests. The ping time is higher than fiber, obviously, but if I'm online when it happens, then I don't even really seem to notice. It's like, oh, that took a little bit longer to click on. But where I do notice is during the outages and waiting for it to reacquire signal. Um, then I click on something and I'm like, is it broken? Because on the phone, there's not as clear indication of what's going on as there is with a desktop web browser. So, but empirically, these folks, they used, if this is the one I'm thinking of, yep, they used the Ookla um, speed test results. And Starlink's median download speeds dropped in every country they surveyed over the past year, including Canada and the US. The company's data shows the median download speeds fell from 9 and 54% from Q2 2021 to Q2 2022. I remember I got mine in February, so I got mine in Q2. Attributing the drop in speed to more users signing up for the service. Canada saw a median download speed of 75.73 megabits and 65.53 megabits in the US. The speeds are below the fixed broadband providers, which provide ranges from 106.4 in Canada to 150.12 in the US. The thing to remember here is that Starlink is not advertised to people who can get fiber or cable. It's advertised to people who the telephone company will screw them over with $30,000 to run a line and then $1,000 a month for really crappy service, or people who can only get like cellular Wi-Fi service, which depending on where they are, if they're in rural America, it might not be good internet, and that's who this is advertised for. I've got a link up right now in another window that I need to find because I misplaced it again. Of course I did. Da, da, da. Oh, that's the right address. Uh, oh, I know I did it wrong. I was going to SpaceX instead of Starlink. Uh, um, Starlink is a part of SpaceX, yes. All right, so coming soon is the dark blue, and waitlist is this medium blue, and available is the bright blue. So most of Australia is available except for this pocket right here. New Zealand, you're good to go. Good chunk of Europe, you're good to go. Ukraine has a waitlist. Interesting. I would think they're a special case. Um, we'll come back to Iran in a minute. Da, da, da. So then you've got uh, most of North America, land-wise. You can get it. Much less of North America, population-wise, can you get it? There's a big chunk out of Virginia, West Virginia here. That's not a lake. These are lakes. It's a gulf, and I don't think business has a different map. Maritime does have a different map, which takes me to a PDF this time around. Interesting. And not just a PDF, but a PDF in a new window, so you guys can't see it. So just bring it back. There we go. So uh, Maritime is currently here on a few coasts and a little bit inland with the rivers. But I think that inland is just because regular Starlink has got you covered on said rivers. So not Cuba. Coverage starting in Q4 of 2022 is the medium blue, and coverage starting in Q1 of 2023 is the dark blue. So yeah, right now you're kind of a coast hopper, but by the beginning of next year, you should be good. And then the inland coverage, which would be your inland rivers and lakes and stuff, although I don't think you would take this on any small lakes that you got to get on land to get to. They are the lighter gray. So that's why there's a black there. All right, so let's get back to topics at hand. Go. I miss being able to just load up all my articles and switch tabs between them. Right, let's see. Starship orbital flight in November is highly likely, according to Musk. And hey, Elon, can you please give us some updates about the orbital flight date? I can't wait to see this launch. He says likely next month, maybe, but November seems highly likely. We'll have 2 boosters and ships ready for orbital flight by then, and with full stack production at roughly 1 every 2 months. That's pretty cool. Robert sent me a screenshot. That's cool. Only a 4 gig, 4G only landline is 2 megs. Yikes. Yeah, so SpaceX, you might want to check and see if it works in your area. So that's exciting. I can't wait to see this thing. I want to see it in person, but uh, we'll see what the schedule looks like. I saw the Falcon Heavy first launch and the Crew Demo 1 launch, both of them live right there from Cape Canaveral. Uh, I'll have to see about getting over to Texas. I really like rocket launches, so I might just do it. But it all depends on like what part of the month and if you need tickets and if I can see it from anywhere else. Which, with a rocket that big, I think we might be able to secure something. We'll see. Moving on to the next one. All right, we talked about the mayor. Stay on SpaceX and Starlink, shall we? This one's coming from PC Mag. Dish Network is claiming that the request for Starlink mobile service is a lawless pirate application. Sounds very lawful and everything to me. Like they're asking. They're not. If they just did it, it would be pirate radio, but they didn't just do it. Dish is mad that SpaceX has requested use of the 2 gigahertz spectrum, and Dish currently has that, but they, according to SpaceX, hasn't done anything with it. So Starlink is asking that they be allowed to use it for mobile service. This is what we're talking about earlier with the V2 satellites and T-Mobile. Very similar to what iPhone is doing with the Global Star. Global Star has also asked the FCC not to allow this, but they did it on different spectrums, their own spectrums, of course. Uh, Starlink only has authority to provide fixed satellite service, Dish argues. What's more is a new authority being requested would contravene almost all of the Commission's long settled and well considered rules governing the 2 gigahertz band, they claim. They also want to be part of all hearings and proceedings regarding this, so they can stick their nose and have their 2 cents in the whole process. I don't think that's probably how this is designed to work, but doesn't mean that's not what they want. We'll see what happens. It doesn't help that Dish Network isn't the only company opposing Starlink's SpaceX's Spectrum push for mobile Starlink service. Last week, Globalstar, powering the emergency connectivity feature in iPhone 14, also told the FCC to reject the request for spectrum access for both 1.6 and 2.4 gigahertz band. 2.4 gigahertz is unlicensed. Anybody can operate in that. 1.6, yeah, that's different. SpaceX plans on using both bands to receive and transmit data over the Starlink service. However, Globalstar is urging the FCC to deny the application over concerns it'll generate interference when it's already using the same spectrum for its own communication services. We'll see how this plays out. I wonder if there are any comments on this thing. Dish Network is just trying to stay in business because its video satellite service is almost completely debunked and will be in the future for sure, the way the market forces are trending. I think Dish Network needs to put up or shut up and use this network or lease it to someone who will. That actually makes more sense for them to just make the money by letting SpaceX operate on it, because then they still make their same money. Problem is they're probably trying to charge too much. This probably was something already on the table, because if SpaceX is willing to work with T-Mobile to share their spectrum, what's to say they wouldn't have talked to somebody else already? Elon Musk is right when he says the patents stop innovation. SpaceX Starlink is obviously attempting to meet a need that currently Dish Network is unable or unwilling to do themselves. The best solution would be where Starlink and Dish share the spectrum. Yeah, absolutely. Robert says he hopes that Voxel brings back the Cavalier as a GSE. David asks, do any of these companies have transport of their own to space, though? Oh, that's great. Hey, it's a shame you can't get your birds into space to use this spectrum of yours. You could go with us for $1 million, or you could go with them for $90 million. I realize those numbers are wrong because SpaceX, I think, charges $35 to $90 million, and then everybody else charges triple what they charge. But still, same thing. Like, yeah, it'd be a shame if you couldn't get the satellites up to use the spectrum of yours. Any new tech that threatens to displace monopolistic control of a revenue stream will face opposition. This is true. Starlink should buy Dish just to get rid of their annoyances. There's another solution, and then you don't have to worry about if they're charging you correctly or not. Just, they're done. We've replaced them with a streaming service over Starlink. That would be fun. All right, who's next? Copy link, paste and go. All right, Starlink app cracks the top 100 list in the US iPhone App Store for the first time. So there's a lot of people with Starlink, or at least that have reserved it, or at least done the will this work for me dance. Speaking of, let me check on my solar production real quick. All right, we're currently getting DC input, just 267 watts. Winter is coming, and we're at 82% battery. That's fine. All right, so back to the app. And let's take this back to you guys so I can see if there's any problems. According to the app tracking firm Sensor Tower, Starlink app was surged to as high as the 54th most downloaded app. However, it dropped back down to 96, just ahead of Office and Tinder. Really, more people are interested in Office than getting a date, or Starlink than Office or getting a date. I would think that Office would do better because you know people need to make their money. The app's been in the store for a while. Sensor Tower is not sure why the app saw a surge this week. Probably people saw the rockets launching. Uh, few As for why it broke the top 100 rankings yesterday, we can only speculate. It's probably because Starlink has been in the news lately. For example, adding more satellites to the network, seeking exemptions so they can have service in Iran, and has helped raise awareness and bolster curiosity about it. In terms of installs in the US, it's still number one in terms of lifetime installs of the Starlink app. However, not by much. US is almost a million at 889,000. Ukraine is at 806,000. Canada at 209,000. Australia at 64,000, and Uzbekistan at 42,000. Interesting is that Uzbekistan does not even have Starlink service. Either way, a surge in popularity in the US is not a bad thing for Starlink. All right, so let's go ahead and get on that Iran thing. There we go. My mouse does work. Iran blocks Starlink website after Elon Musk says he is activating the service. Okay, so this isn't the one I was thinking of. So earlier this week, there were a bunch of news reports about well, let's go all the way to the beginning. The morality police killed a woman because she wasn't wearing a hijab or they didn't like the way she was dressed. I don't know the specifics on that. Um, they said they were going to take her to a school or something, and her family found out that they had murdered her instead. And then there were riots and protests. The protests aren't allowed. Um, Riots, I understand, are already frowned upon by establishment, but the protests are not allowed either, just regular protest. And so then folks started trying to get Starlink out to Iran so that these folks could have open internet rather than everything being shut down. And then this newest article here from yesterday, Iran has blocked the Starlink website as if that's going to help them do what they want. Uh, and of course, just like we saw with Ukraine and all the natural disasters and a couple other incidents where Starlink was deployed, um, all the naysayers came out in droves saying, "Oh, this is Elon's just trying to soothe his ego." Blah blah blah. They don't even have service there. How are they going to make it happen? Blah blah blah. Well, with Ukraine, pretty much after they said we're going to do it, within 24 to 48 hours, trucks showed up full of Starlink, and then later on, more trucks showed up full of Starlink and power walls. So uh, and the same thing with the natural disasters. After them, we always saw truckloads of Starlink dishes show up to help out the Indian reservation, sorry, First Nations reservations, and uh, other schools and other folks that were struck and having troubles with the internet connections because of natural disaster, fire, flood, earthquake, etc. And I think this is going to be the same thing, except that somebody pointed out that yeah, they're probably not going to let a SpaceX truck roll up full of dishes. This is true, but somebody else pointed out, who says that the truck is going to say Starlink on the side? Why not use a shell company or another courier? And I think that's probably what they'll do. But I have a feeling that soon we'll see Iranians back online and continuing to raise awareness to what's going on with their morality police. Exotic Geek says, I heard about that story. It's still wild to see a corporation do something effectively in a conflict zone. Absolutely. Especially interesting to me was like as soon as they deployed to Ukraine, they started getting hacked by or attempting to get hacked by Russia. So Russia was actually helping them build a better, more robust service. So basically, this thing will be military grade by the time the U.S. Military wants to ask them anything about it. It already was on trial with the military. Um, the Air Force, Space Force, and a couple other branches were doing trials on airplanes, on trucks, on bases, but nothing like this is one of our standard providers. It was just yeah, let's try it out, see if it works, and it seemed that they were all happy with their tests. Yeah, Robert, it is pretty sad. Um, some folks want that here. They want morality police. They want one religion to rule them all. which is not how this place is set up. So spaces have been blocked. This was not the article I was planning to load. When I saw that, I thought it would be the one from before yesterday. The account mistakenly tagged the SpaceX fan account in the tweet, but was later corrected to note that the actual SpaceX website was blocked, not the fan account. When asked for clarification, Tensorati, which first reported the tweet, a screenshot was provided to show that it was the Starlink website that could not be loaded with the browser displaying a connection error. Yep. The official cause of death was being noted as a heart attack. Yeah, but I mean, that could happen after you're abused by the police or the morality police or whatever you want to call them. So she was 22 years old. Masha Amini, she was in custody for wearing unsuitable attire, which was in this case not wearing her job properly. And the official cause of death was known as a heart attack. Her family has fought back against those claims, saying she had no history of heart problems and that she suffered bruising to her legs while in custody. I'm going to change subjects now. David says, transport the Starlink receivers and power walls on Starship and land in the desert. Yes. And then we'd see what kind of defenses they have. Because they would try to shoot it down, because it looks like a missile. Shoot, you can find one of the Falcon 9s you're done with and just do it with that. Yes. I mean, uh, most of the articles were spent with the back and forth of like SpaceX was asking Congress to get approval to do it, and politicians were saying yes, allow it, yes, it should be done, and then I guess it got approved, and so it happened. Hang on a second, I'm getting. What is this? Oh, so Mr. Hoovy of Hoovy's Garage was he bought himself or borrowed himself a Ford Lightning and he was towing some trucks with it, and the comments are wild because you got some folks that don't understand how electric cars or how electric towing works or towing in general works, and Hoovy was towing at 75 miles an hour with a short range Ford Lightning, and he was complaining that he had 50% of the range. Uh, while towing at 75 miles an hour in the rain. Uh, I hate to bring up the name, but Tesla Semi has good range at full load. There's a demo on YouTube somewhere. Batteries improve the range too. Yeah, absolutely. And somebody was trying to tell me that hydrogen is the way to go, and y'all know how I feel about that. I don't wish hydrogen any ill will, but it makes no sense. Doesn't mean it'll always make no sense, but it makes no sense now. Next up, staying on SpaceX and Starlink. This one will be fun. I'm going to call it the golden ticket. SpaceX has built their 1 millionth Starlink dish, and it reached a significant production milestone by building their 1 millionth satellite dish. The milestone was achieved on Friday at the company's manufacturing facility in Redmond, Washington. According to the SpaceX enthusiast YouTube host Ellie in Space, who has a source who works at the facility. If you had recently ordered Starlink and are expecting to receive your equipment soon, Ellie tells us you might want to check the packaging carefully. According to the source, SpaceX celebrated its 1 millionth Starlink dish by including a special surprise inside the box, which we will hopefully hear about once the lucky recipient finds it. Let me check something real quick. All right, so I had a shipment from them that said preparing for shipment for days, and then it finally shipped. Let's see when it shipped. If it shipped before Friday, it wasn't me. If it shipped after Friday, it could be me. So picked up on the 21st. So that's probably not me because that's days ahead of there. Yeah, mine shipped on the 21st. Friday was the 23rd. So I will not be the lucky person making the update. Plus, it doesn't say what version to be looking at either. When SpaceX started manufacturing the first version of Starlink, they were selling them at a sizable loss. The round versions of Disney McFlatface were $3,000 to produce and 6 times more than the company was selling them for. They were able to reduce costs with the second gen rectangular Dishy McFlyface, or Dishy V2, aka Squishy. At that time, the company was producing about 5,000 dishes per week, or 260,000 per year. CFO Brett Johnson said production rate would increase by multiples soon after. And the company has also expanded beyond making Starlink dishes for the regular consumer. They also make a high performance dish for business and residential and maritime, business, residential, and maritime with the high performance dish. Yes. It performs better with unavoidable obstructions, provides higher download speeds, is resistant to water jets and higher and lower temperatures, and has better snow melt. That's the one we were talking about last week, as far as bringing it to the residential customers. As of the most recent update from SpaceX, the company had over 400,000 Starlink subscribers in May of 2022. Cool stuff. I got the ticket! I got the ticket, Charlie! I'm incorrigible. All right, so golden tickets, and let's continue on the SpaceX train. All right, so SpaceX holds a Starlink demo on a JSX flight as airlines pass up deals. Does that mean they are passing up as in not taking them? But JSX is one of the ones that had already signed up, along with a couple others that were servicing Hawaii. A couple others, 3 others. Either way, they held a demo. Demonstration was to show off just how well the satellite internet service works at 30,000 feet in the air. Probably better than at sea level because it's a lot closer to the LEO satellites. And according to Bloomberg, as many as 12 reporters were invited to join a 1 hour flight from Burbank to San Jose last week, while there were about a dozen passengers. Additional devices on board increased demand on the service to the equivalent of about 30 passengers. It's a good demo. I mean, because not everybody on the plane buys the Wi-Fi service. Once in the air, speed tests conducted using the Ookla Speed Test app showed speeds exceeding 100 megabits per second while in flight on a jet. But of course, a jet is still slow compared to a satellite running in low Earth orbit. So it's probably just as easy. I mean, it's more math, obviously, but it's probably just as easy to track a jet tracking you than as it is a stationary target on the ground, comparatively. In fact, LEO speed. Uh, all right, so it's around 7.5 kilometers a second, and jet will operate at up to 600 miles an hour, but usually 400 to 500 miles an hour. So let's say uh, 500 mph in kph is 804 kph, and so 804 divided by, not equals, divided by 60. 15.4. Did I do that? I did that wrong. Because the number shouldn't be higher than the satellite. Kilometers a second. Oh, I got to divide it by 60 again. That's how many per minute? Wait, 2. So yeah, they can do it quite easily. All right. What's up, Moto? She's cool. She's cool because what? Yeah, I heard you give her a bath. Just like most babies, she doesn't really care for baths. She does like to get her hair washed, though. So downloads exceeding 100 megabits per second, easily enough to check emails and browse the internet, stream Netflix and YouTube, and even host video chats without any lag. Well, lag is a measure of jitter and latency. But since you can do that on the ground, Starlink at those speeds, the lag was probably similar. Sellable regional carrier JCX became the first airline to sign a deal with SpaceX for Starlink on its planes. They operate flights in Arizona, California, Florida, Nevada, Texas, and New York. Do they not operate in Hawaii? The other ones that signed up were Service Hawaii, like Hawaiian Airlines. They announced they are adding Starlink to some of their planes and hoping to offer the service for free to its customers starting next year. It's not a bad price. Free. While those two airlines are adding Starlink, Bloomberg reports Delta and three of the other largest airlines in the U.S. have passed up on signing deals, with Musk's aerospace company deciding instead to stick with their current providers. Yeah, I wonder if that's a contractual thing, or just sticking with what they know, or them not liking Musk. Their customers are the ones that suffer. And eventually they'll either get loud calls from their customers saying, I want this, or people actually switching to a carrier that provides service over the same routes that also has Starlink, assuming that, when they try it out, that it's great. So part of the reason these airlines have not yet signed a deal with SpaceX could be because of the uncertainty with how well Starlink will perform on larger aircraft with more passengers. Get 3 dishes. If they can do 30 and be just fine at 100 megabits, and that cruise ship can do 2 and have 6 megabits with thousands of people, you don't have thousands of people on the airplane. Get 2. SpaceX satellites are smaller compared to the competition, about the size of a large pizza box, which should allow it to receive a signal quicker than others. However, it's a small footprint that leads some to believe they won't have the power to handle 3. It doesn't matter how big it is to mean that it will work or not work. Remember that the SpaceX satellite is like 10 times closer than what you're using today. So it doesn't need to be as big to hear or speak. SpaceX is trying to expand their reach in the air as they have been able to do so on the water. And they talk about Royal Caribbean. And another SpaceX story. I've got one more labeled SpaceX, and then we'll see if I have any more labeled Starlink. Starlink is expected to expand by 70% and cover all of Canada later this year. So, yeah, it's like on that map site we just looked at. They expect to cover all of Canada later this year. We'll see. Right now, like if they keep launching 50 satellites a week or more, I think they did 100 some odd this week. Uh, then you just got to wait for the birds to get into position, then turn them on, test them, and connect them, and they're good to go. Timeline is slightly ahead of what Starlink's website, which says the service will be available in northern parts of the country in Q1 of 2023. Oh, that's good news. According to Musk, the massive expansion will be accomplished when the company activates laser links on its satellites in polar orbit. That makes sense. So they've got the laser links and they aren't using them yet. That's pretty nifty. Black Earning says, just sad it's not available for 70% of Canada. And Elon says it will be later this year when laser links operate on polar constellation. That is cool. Also, that means that the South Pole stations, they should have more reliable internet as well, assuming that the polar orbit literally covers both poles from north to south. And then once they turn on the lasers, assuming that that's not too cold for any of the dishes, either the circles, the V2s, or the business high performance, I think that will allow them to not have to schedule their internet. That would be cool. These laser links are the same laser links that allowed SpaceX to provide Starlink service to the National Science Foundation's McMurdo Station on the coast of Antarctica. Never mind, they already did it. The lasers enable high-speed connections between distant satellites. How distant? According to satellite map space, there are currently no more than a few handful of satellites over Antarctica, yet the company is still able to provide stable high-speed connection to the McMurdo Station. This is in stark contrast to the more than 3,000 satellites in orbit around the rest of the world, as you can see in the image below. Oh, that's cool. So they literally have just a handful of trains that go over Antarctica, and because they're all laser linked, they got it. It's done. So I guess the laser links will get them back into the rest of the constellation because you don't really need to cover all of this ocean anytime soon. I mean, you'll want to do it, but you don't need to cover it anytime soon. And then these hyper trains right here are the ones that have just deployed, and they're getting themselves in order. There's a lot of them, man. I guess that makes sense when you have 52 launches in under a year. When it expands to the rest of Canada this year, customers will have to pay $759 for the Starlink hardware and $140 per month for subscriptions, Canadian. So it's going to be roughly $500 for the kit and roughly $110 for the subscription, unless they go for the high performance kit, which is supposed to do better at these more extreme angles. So if you're closer towards the North Pole in Canada, then you'll want to spring the extra 2,000 US dollars to get the high performance dish. Unless your neighbor gets the regular one and works out just fine, then you'll probably be fine too. All right, based on the speed test conducted by Ookla, the median Starlink download. Yeah, we talked about this. A net. Where did the net come from? Anyway, so we talked about that already in the previous article. I wonder if the Canadian government will ever allow Starlink to truly compete, or forever have to match the prices of their internal ISPs. It would be stunning to see real competition in Canada after decades of government protection of what appears to be ISP price collusion. Yeah, you guys have it pretty bad with Rogers and Bell. All right, so the last one labeled SpaceX, but not necessarily the last Starlink article. I'll go through and check it real quick. SpaceX meets with the Zambia officials to offer Starlink services. Hooray! And then Elon was tweeting with somebody else. Uh, this wasn't the one I was thinking of. Our president's engagement with the team at SpaceX and their Starlink initiative will escalate Zambia's position to in the digital economy and enable universal access to the internet and other technologies. Grateful for this initiative from visionary entrepreneur Elon Musk. Elon says, looking forward to providing Starlink service to the people of Zambia. The one I was thinking of was where somebody had pointed out that this will allow better education for the schools, and Elon was interacting with that one. He was agreeing with them there. They have 5.47 million internet users at the beginning of the year. That is an increase of 5.4% from 2021. Wow, they are just getting online then. And nearly 3/4 of the country remain offline. Cellular network speed in the country is pegged at 12.08 megabits per second, while fixed internet connection speed is 4.65 megabits per second. Ouch. Ouch. All right, so let me just do a quick search for Starlink in the same notes file to make sure I didn't miss any. I guess I could have rolled on and off with the transitions, but I didn't feel like it. Starlink apps, millionth dish, Starlink demo. So Zambia. Okay, moving on. All right, so we talked about Nicola's recall. We talked about. No, we didn't talk about this. This is fun right here. Now that we're down from space. Tesla is working to release updated auto park and smart summon that is actually smart, according to Elon. This would be nice because the last update I saw to summon an auto park was when they switched the non-refresh, non-Model Y cars over to Vision Auto Park instead of using the ultrasonics exclusively. So that way you could just drive past a open parking space that was painted clearly, and assuming that you didn't have rain or dirt on your rear camera, the rear view camera, you could pop it in reverse, and the car would be like, "Hey, I can do this," and you could push start, and then the car would back itself into the spot and stop safely. Uh, Ever so slowly, just like it did when it was blind. So that was whenever I got beta. That was the last time. Not even when I got beta. That was shortly after I got beta. That was the last time I saw them even touch it, and even then, it wasn't really much of a touch. It was just a flip from. I don't know what happened there. It just reset me. So weird. But well, it says excellent connection live. Can you hear me? Can I hear me? Play. Come on. Okay, yeah, you can still hear me. There we go. All right, so the mouse has decided it won't play nice anymore. That's what that is. All right, it's still live over there. Anyway, um, yes. So the good news is Tesla's brightest minds have been working to fix that. According to Elon Musk, the AI team has a September 30th deadline to provide an actually smart summon and auto park. 5 days, baby. 5 days. All right, so it's not clear if the deadline is for a public release or an internal deadline, but Musk also said that the deadline applied to Optimus, aka TeslaBot, which he's hoping to show off at AI Day 2 on September 30th. Note, AI and Autopilot team is also working on Optimus, actually smart Pokemon Summon, and which may have an end of month, which have end of month deadlines. Sweet. I would be glad to be able to actually use Smart Summon. Right now, it functions, but I don't feel comfortable using it on anything but an empty parking lot because some of the moves it makes. And auto park, like I said, is just really slow. And it seems that no matter how many times I make sure that the lot is empty, and I was like, oh yeah, let the car do it. There always seems to be somebody who just pops out of nowhere, just waiting behind me, trying to go around the car, which is just stupid. You're driving a car and you see the car reversing, you should assume that it's not gonna be able to avoid you, because not everybody has the mobility to do the proper looking and turning. And pedestrians, I get they don't care; they just walk through, and I just push the brake, or the car pauses for them and then waits and then continues. But it's the people in the cars that trying to go around you while you're backing into a spot uh, that annoy me. It's slower than me, but it's not slower than some of the people I've seen reverse park. But it's slower than the majority of people who reverse park because the people who do it all the time they can do it just as fast as they park going in. Model X is kind of a weird situation because it's so long that it's not able to do a one motion in most uh, perpendicular parking spots because the aisles, you have to get so many spaces to meet your occupancy requirements in the U.S. and Canada. So the aisles tend to be closer together unless they have a lot of customers that have what my wife calls jungle trucks. Um, or if it's just like something like Texas where it's everything's big here, we're fine. Usually the aisles are too narrow for a Model X to reverse in one motion. Sometimes it can't even do it forward in one motion, but that's a whole other story. That's a really bad lot if you can't forward park a Model X in one motion. Da, 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 da. Some of my experiences haven't been all bad. The feature worked perfectly for an owner in Miami Beach, using it to get his Model Y out of a flooded area. Yeah, I've done that to get out of puddles. Or somebody gets real close to my car, so I can open the door. The problem for me is uh, a friend of mine in Maryland had her Model Y parked next to our Model X, and I said, "That's smart summon it." And the car came that close; it was just going to turn and hit her car, which would have been bad. She's an insurance agent, so it would have been quick to take care of, but oof. Uh, so I typically still use classic summon because it just goes straight forward and back, minimal turns, and like I said, so smart summon is something I do as a party trick in an empty lot. It'd be nice for it to actually be useful in more scenarios. They've also been testing reverse summon, which Tesla has called Smart Auto Park. Um, yes, versus Auto Park, which is what they have today. Instead of summoning the car, you exit the car and find a parking spot by itself. They did this in what we call the Painted Black demo. It was at a car at Palo Alto headquarters at the time because Giga Texas wasn't open and headquarters hadn't yet moved. Um, the guy has the Tesla take him from home to work, and then he gets out in front of the building, and then the car goes off and parks itself. They used a Model X because of the power doors, so he just literally left the car. So the auto door, what do they call the thing? I forget what they call the smart doors all of a sudden, but the car closed the door and drove without a parking spot. The feature reportedly has 3 different modes depending on where exactly you want the car to park itself within the lot. I can't wait to see this. And no comments, of course. So we talked about Starlink, talked about the orbital ship. Let me close this search because it's distracting. There we go. We talked about Berlin. This one's fun. Let's go back to the air, but without the Tesla component. Air Canada has ordered 30 plug-in planes solely to run on batteries. They carry 30 passengers. And this person doesn't understand anything about electrics. They claim to be a proud Army brat. They've got a U.S. flag symbol there, and they think this is funny, as did everybody else in the comment thread, so I'm not going for that. I meant to, I put it at the top of the list initially, and then I put more stuff at the top of the list. It says, find a link to the article before the show. I didn't do that. I didn't do that at all. Is this the same link, or is this a different link? I've got another link. Maybe I did find it. No, I didn't find it. It's a link to the same thing. But yeah, electrify all the things. Boom, baby. And I saw a Lou Later clip. He talked about the same thing. He didn't think it was funny. He didn't think it was practical, but he didn't think it was funny. As we talked about previously, and as we talked about on What Drives Us, these airlines, stream is finished. Stream is not finished. Stream is not finished. Why do you think it's finished? It says offline. Yeah, so you guys aren't seeing me on YouTube. Oh well, so what I'll do is I'll just post this as an actual video, and we'll go from there. Where can people still see me? Am I still live on Facebook, Twitch, or LinkedIn? Anyway, we'll keep going. So as we talked about on those shows, the airlines are, are very cost sensitive, and if it works for them, they'll make it work, and they have in the past. Let's see. Let's move on to what's this one. All right, while we wait for that to load, we go to the next one. And Australia has a lithium mine for Ford, LG, and Tesla. It's going to be powered by giant off-grid wind and solar and battery project. What's funny to this, with this one for me, is that basically Tesla and LG have captured all the output of this plant for many years, and then what came as a realization to me later is that Tesla's also a large LG energy customer, so they actually are. If it was a 50-50 split, they're actually getting more than 50-50, regardless, because they're getting some cells from LG. All right. Well, we still wait for that to load. Battery recycling homegrown. So this one, let's try to load it again. See if it comes up. I don't know why Twitter's giving me like this. Let's preview this other article while we wait for that to load. Oh, so this one was pretty cool. So I will switch the screen share. Why? Maybe. Let me copy this to another tab and see what happens. Same thing. It's just sitting there, looking foolish. So we'll move on. I'll come back to that one. So this one, this person upgraded their Mitsubishi iMave battery to something a little more, I don't want to say performant, but something with better range. and a local recycler there took the battery and parted it out and is using it to power a bunch of signs that warn people about flooded roads. That's pretty important. There we go. Then we've got Clean Technica asking, what is a portable solar generator? And I would say this thing behind me is a portable solar generator because it's solar powered, it's a battery, and it's portable, luggable. But they have a different definition, and it's this. Uh, it's a DC fast charger on a pellet, and it's got plenty of solar. Twitch is emailing me, so I think that means that Twitch is offline too. They don't usually email me in the middle of the stream. Um, they're asking what is a portable generator, and they give an example of this, and I think this is pretty cool. So I would say they're both solar generators. Then there was an article, Ars Technica complaining, or it wasn't really complaining. It was saying why our hurricane season seems to be slow this year. Uh, I took it that the author was complaining about that, but I'm not complaining. I would prefer less hurricanes. But then right after the article came out, we got what, 2 or 3 back to back. Then we've got this tweet from Elon says the long-term goal is a boardwalk with amenities that goes all the way to downtown Austin, so you can walk, bike, or kayak. And that's in response to an update. Elon told Teslarati that the expansion will accommodate Tesla's plans for an ecological paradise, but factory must be financially stable first. They added 500,000 square feet to Giga Texas in a revised site plan. Area from South Giga to the river will be next level, great and open to the public, Elon says. John asks, will you be renting out Tesla kayaks? And Elon says, maybe little electric Tesla boats with retro-futuristic Victorian design. Cyber kayak. Oh boy. Oh, hey, that other article finally loaded. Let me try and load it again. I'm wondering if I failed over to Starlink, that would explain why I dropped out long enough for YouTube to kill my stream. While this loads, of course it's music. It's always music with Tesla. This is a tweet from Tesla Motors Japan talking about the Model Y is redesigned for safety as a top priority, received 5 stars in automobile safety evaluation programs in various countries, as we saw last week. And while we wait on that, I'm going to log into my router and make sure I didn't switch to Starlink. I guess it's better than being disconnected, but as I mentioned, with an outage every minute, it's not the greatest for streaming at the moment. I need to get my package in to see if it's worth using like that. Disconnect the internet connection, go to plan settings. So I don't know if it's connected or not. Usually it would say cold standby or hot standby. This says go to settings. And I didn't change anything. I've gone to settings. Which is it? Which is it, Bo? Cold standby for Starlink. So I don't know what happened to the connection there. Maybe the streaming platform lost connection. But yeah, so this is just kind of showing up what we saw last week. And let's see. So we talked about the recall, and then we talked about a bunch of stuff around the recall. What's this one? EVgo has expanded their plug-and charge capabilities beyond GM's Ultium Charge 360 network, including Ford and Polestar. And hopefully at some point we could see Tesla on there too, since they already have a concept of plug and charge. Nothing teaches you patience like a slow internet connection. All right. Moving on. We've got 50 total superchargers are now installed in Japan. That's cool. GM pulls the plug on Hummer reservations we talked about. Talked about the BYD Busblade platform. And good news, everyone. EV batteries last longer than expected. The long drive to Frankfurt for IA 2019 made me talk to my Tesla Model 3. That is not... I guess it is. Either way. I can't even put the article in the chat because we're not live anymore. Talked about the filmmaker. I've got a private group posting that I need to extract for you guys. Let's paste this and go. All right, Tesla's order backlog was 381,000 units on September 7th, equal to 93 days of global production. That's 93 days in arrears, rather than sitting on the ground like you have with other automakers. Well, before the part shortage, anyway. The drop happened in China, where the wait times for new orders have been getting shorter for a while, which is probably because of the expansion of the Shanghai factory. All right, so back to that other article I was looking for. Oh, this is fun. Copy link. So for those of you without the HomeLink kit or the HomeLink built into your car for Tesla, they have a MyQ connected garage plus Tesla, and they tell you how to work it. You go into your settings page, and then for Tesla Model Y, Model 3, and newer Model S and X vehicles with the horizontal center screen can open, close, and monitor the garage door safely from their touchscreen. This simple in-dash update allows drivers to take the MyQ connected garage for a 30-day complimentary trial. No credit card required. Step 1, make sure your garage is compatible. Step 2, get the app. So if you already have the app and are using MyQ, then you're fine. The next step for you would be go to your in-dash touchscreen, go to the vehicle menu, the picture of your car, settings, and then locks. Then click on the link MyQ account and follow the step-by-step instructions. You'll scan the QR code, activate your free trial unless you've already paid for one of their other services, and then now your car will work exactly the way it does with the HomeLink, but probably more reliably, assuming you have internet connection to both the car and the garage door opener. My situation seems to be here that the garage door opener goes offline way more often than I'd expect. But because I have HomeLink, that's fine. But because HomeLink is old, the car doesn't know when it sends a signal out if it's closing or opening. So sometimes it'll do the opposite of what I want. But it's touchless, just like it works just like the HomeLink, except better. And then there's a FAQ on it. So I guess that's coming in an update soon because Tesla hasn't announced this yet. We've got another Twitter link here. The Ford Power Up 3.5.33 for the Mustang Mach-E gives you YouTube, NBC News, and Today Show built in. Apologies for the fingerprints. This ain't Doug DeMuro. That's pretty cool. We've had streaming in the Tesla for a while, and glad to see other people get that. And this is assuming that it works just like ours. It only works when you're parked, which is kind of meant for while you're at the charging station or waiting on somebody in a building to get picked up. Does work on Wi-Fi, but you need to sign up for the Ford streaming plan to use it out in the world. So just like the Tesla, if you can still use it if you're at home, but if you're not on premium internet, you can't use it. So same thing with Ford. I like this. And it's the same thing that we keep talking about, where Ford has said, hey, we've got a bullseye on Tesla. We're going to track them down. We're going to chase them down. Do it. Better experience for everybody. Tell me it's coming soon to first editions and not just newly produced vehicles. My kids have been asking for YouTube and Netflix since we got ours. Power-ups get released in waves, so no clue on timing as to when different vehicles we'll get it. Let me know when it lands on yours. Make sure you have automatic updates turned on. But is it coming to the 21s at all? No one at Ford wants to say one way or the other about things like this or the Amazon Assistant with regards to 2021s. And this is what people don't like about traditional automakers and their model year crap. Tesla sometimes does this, but most of the time they just roll out everything to the fleet with anything that supports it. All right, so we talked about SpaceX and Dish, and then we talked about the iPhone app. Tesla wants thousands of its humanoid robot in its factories based on a job reporting, or job request, rather, I should say. Megapack. Megapack. Megapack Farm is in development in Ario, New Mexico. Always good to see more Megapacks. This one is 31 megawatt hours. It's an expansion of what? No. They had a 31 megawatt hour expansion of the Watertown, New York substation, but this is a new one shown by the COO of New Consult Services of Nicholas Park on his LinkedIn account. And the tweet appears to be gone or didn't load for me. Wells Fargo is backing the project and includes 300 megawatt AC of solar PV panels and 150 megawatts and 600 megawatt hours of battery storage at the facility. This means the site's only about halfway into the battery installation. Pretty cool. Tesla's reportedly targeting 442 megawatt mega pack batteries in the third quarter. So some of it is powering the Donimenti power plant in Hungary. Dun, dun, dun. So as I keep saying, incentives work. Kia has shifted EV production to the U.S. for 2024, according to a report. According to Reuters and SBS and TC and Mali Business newspaper, the goal is for Kia to begin EV production in the U.S. in 2024. Kia and Hyundai are both ineligible for tax credits because neither produce EVs in the U.S. The tax credits will be available beginning in 2024 for them. Well, there you go. Kia has not confirmed the report, but it's not out of the realm of possibility, as they are not the only automaker considering a change to their plans due to the IRA, except for apparently BYD complaining they don't qualify and not moving to US to do it. Moving on. I had a lot of articles this week. All right. Tesla files to add ecological paradise to the Giga Texas. NVIDIA has announced new graphics processors. So they have their graphics cards for personal use. They use up to 450 watts now, and they are more powerful than ever, double the last high performance model in raster performance and triple in ray tracing performance. But they also talked about their machine learning, AI, and self driving initiatives. So for their self driving chip called Thor, they actually skipped a hop because they were making one and they just decided to cancel it because this one is so much better. Right in between there was another one, and it's gone now. It was like here, and they said, and it went away. Still a few years away, is not expected into production until 2025, which is, yes, in the world of technology, that is very far into the future. But NVIDIA believes they will still be at the leading edge of automotive chips and provide 2,000 teraflops of performance. Its current flagship, the Drive Orin, provides 250 teraflops. So, whew, that is incredible. They mentioned that it can run multiple OSs at once, including QNX, Linux, or Unix, and Android. So you can just use one chip to run the whole car rather than a bunch of different ones. I wish them luck. All right, talked about the Starlink demos. GM is going to launch Super Cruise in the Middle East in 2024. GM does a lot with the Middle East all of a sudden. I guess that's part of how they were able to survive, was get some money from over there. So they're going to expand Super Cruise and launch the driver assist software in the Middle East in 2024. The launch of Super Cruise in the Middle East will coincide with the launch of 6 new Cadillac models in the region. However, the automaker did not confirm the exact timing. All right. Tesla has increased the supercharging fees in Europe by 30% or more. It's now more expensive to plug in and use a supercharger in Europe after Tesla raised its per kilowatt hour pricing fees as much as 30% at stations across the region on Monday. Before today's price increases, the cost to plug in at most superchargers in Germany was around 55 euros, 0.55 euros, or 0.57 euros per kilowatt hour, depending on the station, according to Tesla's in-car navigation. All right, and then now that cost has increased to 0.70 and 0.72 euros, about 30% higher than before. And it wasn't just Germany subject to massive price increases. At the same time, they reported in the Netherlands. Tesla's emailed owners in Europe to say the prices have increased because of rising electricity prices. It's what happens when a lot of your electricity comes from oil and gas, and a major oil and gas provider in the region has started war on neighbors, and everyone else has sanctioned them. It's kind of how it works. You need more solar and batteries, and you wouldn't have had this problem. Or like France, just keep your nukes running. This one was funny to me. A Lexus dealership has used the Tesla Model 3 to promote safe driving. Clearly, that's a Model 3 gear stock. It's a Tesla steering wheel. That's a Tesla door panel. This is not a Lexus in any way, shape, or form. Uh, while you're good at what you do, you can't help your competition taking note. Sometimes they go so far as using your product as an example of what a sound product should look like. Tesla's in this enviable position as a Lexus dealership has used the Model 3 in a picture about safe driving. Skeptics might say it was an accident. The Tesla Model 3 happens to be one of the safest cars on the road today. The Lexus dealership, Lexus of Tauranga, located in New Zealand. Um, this is funny. Gavin Schubert says, now I'm no Lexusologist, but I could be wrong. That doesn't appear to be the interior of a Lexus. And that's definitely the way our Model 3 puts its speaker and how they get that round one there. Apparently, the graphics editor simply picked a stock image online, which some sleuths managed to unearth. The full image clearly shows the woman is driving a Tesla. However, it seems Lexus of Tauranga quickly realized the mistake as the post was taken down. Apparently, the future media campaigns by the dealership will face more scrutiny. Go figure. Chipotle and Tesla team up for a awards program. We can win a Model 3. I wonder what happened with that. If anybody won that. That one was a meta game. Xbung has done some more with their AI. Let's take a quick look at that. They announced City NGP pilot program to challenge Tesla FSD beta. They are still using LiDAR in their system. And they are the ones who were accused of stealing Tesla Tesla Autopilot or Tesla FSD not FSD, but early Tesla Navigator Autopilot build. I don't remember which. Good luck to them. We talked about the Tesla order backlog improving. So we always talk about how Ford is doing well with copying Tesla. Volkswagen does okay too. They're considering increasing the Volkswagen ID Buzz, the throwback van, production orders following massive pre-orders. Go figure. Who would have thought that you've been selling this thing for 15 to 20 years, amping us up on it, as well as all the folks who remember the original, that this thing might sell well. So they're going to make more, which is the right move, as I kept saying, rather than closing the order book, saying, we made enough. Find a way to make more. Strike while the iron's hot. Electric vehicles get a discount while traveling through the Detroit Windsor Tunnel, and that's always cool. I like to see perks for people driving EVs. Discount applies to drivers that are part of the Nextpress program with eligible zero-emission battery electric and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. It only applies when traveling from Detroit to Windsor and not from Windsor to Detroit. Okay, then. At least half of your trip is, if you're doing round trips, is cheaper. Talked about Zambia. This one was interesting. We talk about being responsible consumers of news, Tesla denies its report that it's considering closing down the stores in China. Last week, it was reported that Tesla was reevaluating their sales strategy in China. The report from Reuters, citing anonymous sources, said that the automaker was considering closing some of the stores in malls and shopping centers due to high rents and decreased foot traffic. Although that's exactly what they did here in the US and Canada, so it was plausible. Uh, Tesla China has been known to do in the past. They have denied the report to local media, which doesn't mean they're not going to do it, but we'll see. Company clarified in this publication that the sales channels in China are expanding at a normal rate, and they have no idea where the information came from. All right, so they might not then in that case. All right, so we talked about the recall. As Robert was speaking about, we had a supercharger in Surrey get its cables cut. I don't know if this is the same one he was talking about, but sad to see. All right, update. Tesla has replaced damaged cables, and the station is back to being fully operational. So that was on September 24th at 3:47, and that was just a day. It was reported on September 22nd, but on September 23rd at 3 in the afternoon, it was back. As with other instances where supercharger cables have been cut and stolen, the thieves were likely after the copper inside them. They will attempt to sell the copper at scrap metal recyclers, but likely won't get much money if they're even accepted at all. This isn't the only time Tesla supercharger in Surrey has been vandalized like this. It's unfortunate. Earlier this year, 4 cables were cut at the South Surrey V3 supercharger, which has even less copper in it, while under construction and days away from opening. What is wrong with gasaholics? Probably my brother, he hates Teslas. Keep the cables powered, maybe at 48 volt DC at all times, cause a heck of a spark, and have a software trip it after a few seconds of a short, just in case for safety. That would be kind of cool. Maybe pulse it with a typical electric animal fence does. I don't know what's safe, but there's probably some safe amount of electricity that's just enough to cheat someone a lesson. All right, so them will hopefully get these losers caught. Surprisingly, there are no cameras at these sites. At least send tow trucks for people blocking stations with non-chargeable vehicles, and this is even more common in my experience of late. Use the Starlink equipment for charging for these charging areas and reporting an option for our apps for immediate removal of troubled offenders. That'd be cool. So pathetic someone would do this. There we go. And the Tesla Model 3 easily tops Canadian ZEV sales in August. Model 3 was the most popular zero-emission vehicle in Canada in August, with more than double the sales of the next closest competitor. It wasn't just the Model 3 that's popular in Canada, however, as deliveries of all ZEVs last month was the highest they've been so far in 2022. That's good to see. All right. Oh, just above and beyond. The Model 3 in August of 2177. Next closest was the Bolt EV at 804. Year to date, 9725 at the Model 3. 1878 for the Bolt. Three. Oh, okay, they kept them in the August order. 3200 for the Kia Kona, or Hyundai Kona, sorry. 3700 for the Ioniq 5. That one is catching up quick. Yeah. So there we go. Good to see. All of Canada was 6956 for August, 38,766 for the year. Quebec in the lead at 20,000, BC at 9,000, Ontario at 6,000. Everybody else doing their best, except for none of it. Come on, guys. You can do more than 0. Northwest Territories at 2 for the year. All right. So, thank you for those of you that came back to watch the recording since YouTube and others decided to cut my live stream, and also for our channel members and patrons. Appreciate that. And of course, everybody, again, as I said, who came back to listen, and we'll catch you on the flip side.